Deshaun is going to start against Jacksonville. Took in the full body of work over the course of off-season to training camp to the games, the joint practice, and ultimately felt like to start the season on the road, Deshaun gave us the best chance to move the ball and score points. I mean, that's really what it's about. And felt that way going in the last game, but wasn't sure. And after we talked as a staff and after we re-looked at everything, we're going to go that direction.
Feels like Watson's got the edge. Wait, we're not going to play the starters, but Shedeur's going to play? But then the game happened, and we've all, I think, been led to believe that, yeah, Watson was there in the lead. But at the same time, the game happened. Shedeur outplayed Watson. And then Watson had the unbelievably bad post-game press conference where you went, uh-oh, that's a little odd. I don't know what's going to happen now. And that's where I just was like, wow, I don't know if I could go with Deshaun Watson in this circumstance. But I think really what it comes down to is, yeah, Watson probably a little cleaner from what I've heard throughout the big picture of practice, right? Executing the offense, doing that. And I do think the big thing, and we're going to play Monken saying this, is that he's just got a little more experience on the road and battle-tested that way. And I think that's where Monken and company probably feel most comfortable.
He walked into that meeting with a smile on his face. That's it. That's the whole story people missed. Because when the Cleveland Browns told Shedeur Sanders he wasn't starting Week 1, everyone expected tears, anger, maybe even a scene. Instead, they got a smile. And nobody in that building knew what to do with that. This is the story of how a rookie who outplayed a veteran quarterback in the preseason still lost the job, and how he responded to it in a way that's starting to change how people talk about him.
Took in the full body of work over the course of off-season to training camp to the games, the joint practice, and ultimately felt like to start the season on the road, Deshaun gave us the best chance to move the ball and score points. I mean, that's really what it's about. And felt that way going in the last game, but wasn't sure. And after we talked as a staff and after we re-looked at everything, we're going to go that direction.
Is this a week-by-week thing, or
No, we're not anticipating this being a week-by-week thing. Again, I think Shedeur has done a great job, come a long ways, and we're excited about his future. But this is not a week-to-week decision.
Okay, that last part's bullshit. Sorry, but it is. He had to say it. He had to say it.
Yeah.
Of course it's a week-to-week decision. Of course it is. And he answered it with what he said earlier, beginning the season on the road. That's the key. If they were beginning the season at home.
Let's rewind a few weeks. Training camp in Cleveland was supposed to be simple. Deshaun Watson, the former #1 overall talent, the guy with the massive contract, the guy the front office bet everything on years ago, was supposed to walk into that starting job. No competition, no drama, just handed to him. Except that's not what happened. Shedeur Sanders showed up different. Sharper reads, better command in the huddle, and in that second preseason game, the one that was supposed to mean nothing, he did something nobody expected. He outplayed Watson. Not by a little, by enough that people covering the team started second-guessing what they thought they already knew. And then Watson opened his mouth after the game. He talked about the fans booing him, called it disrespectful, said it felt personal. In a city that has watched Watson play some of the worst football of his career while making some of the biggest money in franchise history, that comment did not land well. Not with the fans, not with the media, not even with people inside the building who were trying to give him a fair shot. For about 48 hours, it felt like the job was Shedeur's to lose. Then Todd Monken, the Browns' first-year head coach, made his decision. Watson was in, starting quarterback, Week 1. 2 road games to open the season, against Jacksonville and then Tampa Bay. Cue the shock. Reporters who cover this team closely, guys who talk to sources inside the building every single day, were stunned. Not because Watson getting the job was impossible, because of the timing, because of everything that had just happened on that practice field, because the numbers, the film, the vibe in the building all pointed one direction, and Monken went the other way.
Of course it is. And he answered it with what he said earlier, beginning the season on the road. That's the key. If they were beginning the season at home, it would not be Deshaun Watson. The fact that they've got not one but 2 games on the road to start the season allowed Todd Monken to trust the body of work and just whatever instinct he's developed in all of his years of coaching, that we have a chance. We've got a chance. We get to see what Deshaun can do. He'll be in a setting where he won't be disrupted, distracted, and otherwise perturbed by whatever he's hearing from 65,000 fans who will be ready to pounce on him at the sign of anything that would justify booing. We get a chance to put him in a different environment, let him build some confidence, and let's see if he can become the guy. Yeah. And you get your chance.
That's right.
And what you do with it now is up to him.
Yeah, it's. I think there's a lot of positives. You buy Shedeur a little bit more time, too. Again, we know it's year 2. He's still young. It's another system. So I think that probably plays a big part of this. But yeah, I'm with you in that Deshaun Watson's going to have to play well.
So why did he do it? Here's where it gets interesting. Monken didn't hide behind vague coach speak. He said flat out that experience mattered, that starting the season on the road in hostile environments against real NFL pressure was not the spot for a young quarterback still learning a brand new system. He wanted a guy who's been through the fire before, someone who wouldn't get rattled by 65,000 people who came ready to boo his every mistake. Watson has that experience. Painful as it's been, he has it. But here's the part that tells you everything about how thin this decision really is. Monken was asked directly, is this a week-to-week thing? And he said no, said it wasn't going to change week to week. Almost nobody in that room believed him. Because think about it, 2 road games. If Watson comes out and struggles, if the offense looks stagnant, if the same problems that have followed him for years show up again in primetime, there is no version of this where Cleveland sticks with him. Not with a fan base that's already restless. Not with a front office that's watched this same story play out for 3 seasons straight. This wasn't really a quarterback decision. It was a leash. A short one, and everybody in that building knows it, even if nobody's saying it out loud. Now, here's where the story shifts, because this is supposed to be about disappointment, about a young player getting passed over after doing everything right. Instead, it became something else entirely. Monken sat down with reporters and described what happened when he told Shedeur the news. No outburst, no frustration bubbling under the surface, just Sanders sitting there with a smile, already thinking about what's next. Monken said it himself. Sanders understands the long game, understands what's actually in front of him, understands where he wants this to go, not just this year, but years down the road. That's not the reaction of a guy who thinks his window just closed. That's the reaction of a guy who knows exactly how this league works. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud on Cleveland sports radio right now. Shedeur Sanders is 24 years old. He's in year 2, learning his second different offensive system in as many seasons. And even with all of that working against him, he still pushed a former number 1 overall pick to the very edge of losing his job. In practice, in games that supposedly didn't matter.
You get to evaluate him. Can he play well enough to keep the job? And you get Shedeur Sanders a little bit more time to get more comfortable in the system and really feel good if he does and when he does get his chance.
Yeah, Chris was referring to moments during the joint practice between the Browns and the Bills where the Bills' defense was actually giving Sanders cat calls as a check down king.
Yes.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who has a bit of a reputation for saying whatever pops into his brain, was one of the ones doing it. But, you know, one of the realities of a quarterback competition where it's close, you're going to have those things bubble around in your mind.
You are.
In the moment where you're trying to make decisions, you are going to think, you know, instead of ripping it here, I'm going to do the safe thing because I'm trying to win this competition and maybe I'm in position to win it and maybe I don't need to throw 30 yards on an out route and try to thread a needle and do something stupid where there's a guy right here who's open, because you hear it all the time. Todd Monken wants to move the offense. Guys open short, we move the offense, period.
Ask yourself what that looked like from the other sideline. During one of the joint practices against Buffalo, players on the Bills' defense were reportedly getting on Sanders, calling him a check-down king, needling him for playing it safe instead of ripping throws downfield. And here's the thing. He probably was playing it safe, because when you're in a real competition for a starting job, you don't take unnecessary risks. You take the completion in front of you. You protect the football. You do exactly what a smart, patient quarterback does when the job is actually within reach. That's not weakness. That's poise. That's a guy playing chess while people expected him to play checkers. And that's exactly why so many people around this team, media and coaches alike, keep saying the same thing about him. He's come a long way. He's earned trust. His future is bright. Monken didn't just say it once. He said it again and again, almost like he wanted to make sure everyone heard it clearly. This isn't a rookie being written off. This is a young quarterback being protected from a brutal opening stretch, while a veteran gets thrown into the fire to either prove himself or run out of chances completely. If you're following this story as closely as we are, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens over these next 2 weeks in Cleveland is going to define this entire season, and you don't want to miss a second of it. Because make no mistake, this is a 2-game audition for Deshaun Watson, not a guarantee, not a fresh start with unlimited patience. 2 games, on the road, against 2 teams that are more than capable of exposing every weakness he's shown for years. If Cleveland comes out of Jacksonville and Tampa Bay with a losing record, and it looks anything like the version of Watson we've seen since 2020, there is no scenario where the fan base, the media, or even Monken himself can justify staying the course. The pressure will be immediate and loud, which means Shedeur's wait might be a lot shorter than anyone in that building wants to admit. So here's where this story actually leaves us. A rookie who was told to wait, who took that news with a smile instead of resentment, who's spending these next 2 weeks getting more comfortable in a new system, building chemistry, learning every wrinkle of Monken's offense, all while the spotlight sits on someone else. Because if this goes the way so many people expect it to go, Shedeur Sanders isn't losing anything by waiting. He's gaining time, gaining reps, gaining the exact kind of patience that turns talented rookies into franchise quarterbacks. And when his moment finally comes, and everything about this situation suggests it will come sooner rather than later, he won't be stepping into pressure unprepared. He'll be stepping into it exactly the way he walked out of that meeting with Todd Monken, smiling, ready, and playing the long game the entire time.